Barring any late change of plans, postponements, or cancellation, Nigeria's next general elections is a year and 11 days away, and the game is on. Now, several politicians and technocrats have announced their ambitions for Nigeria's biggest office, the presidency. The elections notwithstanding, there is a general consensus amongst the populace that Nigeria's electoral process is in need of reforms. With the electoral law still awaiting the president's final stamp and the political space seeking new ideas and old structures, 2023 elections have become the topic hot on everyone's lips, and rightly on ours too. Welcome to VSA. I'm Sulaiman. Well, over the course of the past week, more Nigerians have stood up to announce their intentions to run for office. Some of these names are known, household names in Nigerian politics, while others are largely unknown and are seen to build a big following on social media first before coming on the scene. Now, the issue hotly debated in Nigeria today, however, remains the process of recruitment of the next president of the electoral laws. Nigeria's biggest political parties, the APC and the PDP, are still very much the parties to beat. But the third force, as we've been told, is in the pipelines. It's the time Nigeria looked away from the big two, what are the structures available, and who are the people willing to take charge of a country riddled in its own struggles, diversity, identity, and many more. Joining me to look at that today on the square is Nicolas Felix. He's a 2023 presidential aspirant, and he was also there in 2019, as well as George Eke, a chieftain of the APC and a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us here on VSA. Quickly, let's start with you, Nicolas Felix. Once again, thanks. He joins us from New York in the United States. You were in the 2019 election, and you had a good showing compared to other young Nigerians. What were the discoveries you made from that election that will be vital to your ambition at the moment?
And thank you for having me. And 2019 was quite an interesting year. It was a lot I learned from the general election, and one of which is the structure of the parties. A lot of the younger parties do not have the structure and the strength that it takes to win a presidential election. So that's something our campaign organization have been looking very deeply. So in 2023, we're going to be making some adjustment and some changes as we officially declare in a few weeks.
Well, that'll be interesting as we wait for that official declaration, because Nigerians have been talking about, the age, thing is very much key there. Nigerians are looking forward to having a younger personality come on the saddle. But quickly, let me bring in George Eke here. George, thanks for your time and good to see you again. You are an APC chieftain, and there are talks surrounding the party's choice ahead of this election in 2023. Quickly, let us in on what exactly is happening within the party, and also let us in, is zoning a viable option, or should the party look to pick competence over region?
Yeah, Nigerian politics is informed by a number of things. Well, key among which is interest. And this interest oftentimes is clouded, or at least is clouded with some kind of primordial sentiments. Such sentiments revolve around two things. One is either ethnicity or it is religion. And so that is what gave rise to the zoning issue, why we were going to talk about if the North had ruled for this number of times, or number of years, that the South or whichever zone should be able to test it. Otherwise, what should count actually is merit. How solid is the candidate? What is his pedigree? What is he capable of bringing to the table? And all of that. Those are things that make presidents elsewhere in other climes. That's what makes a president. But Nigeria, it is a different ball game. That is why Nigerian politics is different from the rest of the world, or at least outside Africa. But coming to your question about zoning, the party appears to be looking at zoning, the presidency to the south. But the issue is, when you zone it to the south, is there going to be some micro zoning? Because as it stands now, a number of people are jostling for the party's ticket in the southeast, which is the zone that I've been saying that it naturally belongs to them, or at least they should be allowed to have a shot at it. But then you find out that, of course, it's no longer news that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has declared his intention. And take it or leave it, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed is a very huge politician. He's a politician to beat any day. He has the war chest, he has the structure, he has the pedigree, and all of that. In other words, he is a man to beat. So when you now look at zoning and just oppose it against the ambition or aspiration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you find out that he is almost like trying to destabilize the zoning system that ordinarily should have been equitably given to the Southeast. That is where the party is. But these are all the kind of skirmishes that you expect before the convention that is going to take place in the next 2 weeks or thereabout.
Well, I like that, the way you've highlighted it, what's to come before the convention. But again, another key thing you raised there, George, is the merit of a candidate. Let me bring in Nicolas here quickly. Nicolas, perhaps there are things that pushed you to run in 2019 that has actually also kept you, in the race. You're not the professional, politician that everyone sees here in Nigeria. Let us in on some of those, merits. First, security is big, a problem here in Nigeria. Let us in on some of the key things you bring into the table that will make Nigerians look towards a Felix Nicolas candidacy.
It's surprising, or I would say it's sad enough, that zoning has clouded the 2023 election. We're no longer considering the merit of the candidates. In as much as I'm not against zoning, I'm for zoning. The tickets should be zoned, talking about these big parties, APC and PDP. Zoning is not something we should push by the side. However, it should not be the order of the day in this 2023 election. So for me, I have been clamoring, and I'm big when it comes to security issues in Nigeria. There is no nation that is unsafe and yet experience economic growth. If we must see economic growth in Nigeria, if we must see the country move from wherever state we are now to the next level, the first thing we must fix is security. And that is number one on my agenda. I believe strongly that I'm one man, if elected, or when elected as president, security will be something I will tackle in the first 100 days of my administration. So I want us to begin to shift to the issue of merit and not just zoning. Apparently, that's the only thing I've been hearing, all about zoning, south, north, zoning tickets. Nobody is talking about the issues that really affect Nigeria. Nigerians are dying every day in the south, in the north. Banditry, insurgency increasing every single day. These things are not dominating the media space. Rather, we're just focused, these two big parties, they're just focused on zoning, their personal interests. I think we need to do something about this.
Before I go back to George, what can we do to change it? Because if you listen to George, he didn't categorically say that we should go towards zoning. He said in an ideal situation, we should be talking about the merit of a candidate. But now it looks like, well, that's not it. So how can we refocus, our attention to looking at the merit of those running for office?
Yeah, I mean, my response directly wasn't just to his response. I'll tell you, this is the second interview among several have been where merit questions like this have been asked. All of the questions has been zoning, has been who is taking the ticket, talking about some of these guys who have been in office and yet have nothing to show for it. The first thing we should be doing now is, as we are coming out as aspirants to run for office, is to be presenting our manifesto. What are you going to offer? Just like you just asked me. And that's why I responded by saying, security is number one. And like I said, security, the safety and protection of the citizen and their property is the number one, not number two, is the primary responsibility of any government. And it is clear that Nigerian government has failed in this responsibility. So now what we should be focusing on is who is that candidate that can provide security, that has the political will, the political desire to ensure Nigerians are safe. Let me say this very carefully. If the nation is not safe, you cannot experience any economic growth. Let the billions be pumped into the system. You won't see it. Take a look at this nation who are succeeding, who are experiencing growth, talking about America, Canada, London. There's one thing that is common about them. The nations are safe. When we go to bed there, we sleep with our two eyes closed, but not in the case with Nigeria. Are you aware that Nigerians in the diaspora pump in billions of dollars to Nigerian economy every year? And yet, we are not seeing the result. We are not seeing anything of such because the nation is not safe. The few politicians, the few rich people we have in Nigeria, instead of investing, if they'll be truthful to you, they're all taking their money running abroad. Why? Because the nation is not safe. Let me quickly just say this. Years ago, 2019 or 18 thereabout, I was traveling to Italy. And while I was going, everybody was telling me, when you get to Italy, buy me shoe, buy me bag, buy me belt. Everybody just focused on shoe, what they know is Italy is good at. And I was coming back, I actually came with 2 big bags of shoes. The immigration actually were questioning me, what are you doing with so much amount of shoes? So let me ask you a question. If I tell you I'm going to Kano today, if I tell you I'm going to Kaduna, what is the first thing you're going to say to me? We have great leathers in Kano. You're not going to tell me to buy you shoes. The first thing you're going to say to me is, be careful, be safe. The place is not safe. Nobody wants to go to Kano. Every day I wonder how those in the north, how they are living. Why? It's suggesting every day. Security must be the number one thing. Every presidential candidate, every presidential aspirant or hopeful should be talking about security. Every other thing is important, but Nigerians want to live. Enough of our brothers and sisters dying. Zoning is good. We should talk about zoning, but that should not be what dominates the media space. Let's us talk about security. What is most important today in Nigeria?
Let me bring in George here. And again, some of the key things, I know I want you to also comment on some of the key talking points, George. It will help us because we know that there will be a debate. And Nigerians have said for the first time, almost everyone, if not everyone, must go through that, conversation with Nigerians. On the platform, you have to debate. So what are the issues you think will form this particular election, George, in 2023?
Yeah, without doubt, I agree with my colleague, in the panel. Security is the major issue. It's a major issue, as a matter of fact. If you ask me, you'll find out that Nigeria is tanking. We are going down. We are going south. The reason being that without security, you can't even begin to talk about the economy. I mean, you would have found out that the insecurity has crippled even the subsistence farming that you get in the north to such an extent that Nigerians are now hungry because they can't even feed themselves. The regular staple food is not there. So we are talking about how security is affecting the economy. And maybe the third leg of it will be to what extent has corruption, aided and abated all of this. You will also find out that some of these things are intertwined. Intertwined in the sense that if you look at what corruption had done to even the fight against insecurity, you will find out that there is a lot to probe about, all equipment, all the votes that have been, all the budgets that have been made, on security. Corruption would dovetail into insecurity. Insecurity dovetails into the economy, or at least the well-being of Nigerians. But that is actually what the issues are. And those are what will form the issue. But again, I must alert my friend that aside from zoning, the issue will be, what is your pedigree? If you say you are going to tackle insecurity, where have you tackled insecurity before? What has happened to insecurity in Nigeria with maybe the likes of your candidature, who probably tried to see if they can, work on that? Otherwise, insecurity, economy, corruption will just be issues of words of appeal. Sulaiman, I think I can use this example. The professor who taught me sociology of mass communication told me about words of appeal. And words of appeal, in short, to use McLean toothpaste as an example. He said, be important, be successful, use McLean toothpaste. If you go and buy a lorry load of McLean toothpaste and use it without more, you can never be important, you cannot be successful. So politicians use the word of probity, transparency, vote me for accountability. All those words that sound very good. Like what is on the table now is insecurity. I'm going to battle insecurity. I'm going to battle the economy. I'm going to put jobs back to the youths. How can Nigeria be the poverty capital of the world? These are all lines that politicians are going to use. Even in the debate we are envisaging, these are questions we are going to ask them. And every politician that is what is sought is going to have an answer to all of this. But the point now is, what can the person show as his pedigree? Where has he done anything before you can now ask the country to give you the mantle of leadership? That is what is going to form the issue in the debate.
Well, I'll come back to you, George, so that we can talk more about the Electoral Act, but I'll allow Nicolas to respond to that. I think I need Nicolas to respond to that, because that's a big one from George, and it's what Nigerians would like to know about a new phase and a new name coming on the scene.
See, the statement George just made, this has been the line our older politicians have been trying to use to suppress those of us who are just coming up. Now, it has always been, what have you done before? What have you done before? Tell me any politician in Nigeria who had anything to show for the office they have been in all these years. Which one? I don't want to start calling them. What have they done? Apparently, if they have been doing something, Nigeria won't be in the mess that it is now. It is obvious that these guys are not doing anything. I don't have to have been in office to prove that I can do something. When it comes to security, I'm big on security. I have security company with hundreds of employees here in America. I have security company in Nigeria. So when it comes to security, this is what I breathe. This is what I live. This is what I do. And understand, I've always said this, even before I came into the political space. I said, I would rather live in one little room here in America than live in a mansion where I have people with weapons staying outside guiding me because I can't sleep with my two eyes closed. So when it comes to security, I know I can fix the security issues in Nigeria. Corruption has made it what it is today. Look at our police officers. How do you send people the other day, I had a police officer with me, and yet there was no bullet in his gun. I'm like, who sent you on an error with no bullets? The other one used tape to wrap his, whatever they call it. I'm like, how do they expect you to combat armed robbers, kidnappers on the way, and yet you are not armed and equipped? So the issue now is, these guys will be telling us, show us your pedigree, what have you done? No, let's reverse the question. Show me what they have done. Is Lagos safe? Is the North safe? Is Nigeria safe? Show me any place in the country that is safe. With all the positions, with all the offices they have held, some of them have been in governors, senators, House of Rep members. They have done nothing. What they should be doing now, Nigeria is better off to take a risk with somebody who has not been there before. We know what they offer. They said the demon you know is better than the angel, or whatever, how they say the angel you don't know is better than the demon you know. We already know what they can offer. Nothing. They are leading us to the grave. Let us try fresh blood. Let me put it this way. Look at Nigeria in the 80s. Look at Nigeria in the 70s. They were better off then than now. So if we even want to give these guys any little credit at all, we can say while they were young in office, they did better than now that they are old in office. Let's be very sincere. These guys got to office in their 30s, in their 20s, in their early 40s, and they have been in there while they were there in their young age. Let's assume they have the energy, they have the vision, they have the mind to do something little. But now in their old age, Nigeria is going down. We cannot afford to elect any of these guys anymore. They are going to lead us to the grave. Tinubu has nothing to offer. Atiku has nothing to offer. These guys have been there and they did nothing. Nigeria should be focusing on electing a new blood. And that's why we're coming up. And like I said, we're not giving up. We're not going to turn back until we get there.
And that takes us to you, George. The president is yet to sign the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. Do you think this is going to be a big holdback on the 2023 elections? And how important do you consider that bill to the future of Nigeria's elections?
Yeah, you see, when you are discussing 2023, there is no doubt that one of the things that must be in place is the legal regime, the electoral framework, which will act as a guideline, with regard to what to do and what not to do. And that is probably why it is important. Adjunct to that is the umpire itself, the regulatory body, INEC. And that takes me to probably the debate on nominees that are supposed to, fill the vacancies that exist in the electoral body. Because without sanitizing the electoral body, almost every effort that you are going to make, in the political field, be it campaign, be it Congress, be it convention or whatever, they will come to none, because there must be an electoral, umpire that is unbiased, that is going to, supervise whatever is going to be. Having talked about the electoral regime, I mean, that's the framework itself, the legal regime, and then the electoral body. We can talk about the preparedness of the parties themselves with regard to who are the people going to contest the election. In your intro, you mentioned APC, PDP, and then there is a third force. The third force, they prefer to call themselves, an alternative party. An alternative party in the sense that they see PDP and APC as the same, two sides of the same coin, and they are trying to provide, a fresh air. Maybe in line with what Nicolas, my friend, is talking about, in which case, fresh blood and all of that. But you see, when you are talking about fresh blood, you got to be around. People have to see you. As a matter of fact, part of what we talked about pedigree, it may not necessarily be how many roads have you been able to build or what level of philanthropy have you done in your village or whatever. It is that you need to keep moving. In short, my political mentor, the late Chubo Okadibo, he said that, this politics we do is standing around. You keep standing around until you get something to do. That is the whole idea. It is not, you don't come with very beautiful ideas. Of course, when you come with very beautiful ideas, they are very much acceptable to us. But we see you as members of the civil society organization who are condemning everything, who are saying nobody has done anything, every other person is joking around and all of that. And then you are the person who will come to fix the country, as it were. And the first question, in short, I'm helping you with all I'm contributing. Now, the first question they are going to ask you is, gentlemen, what have you been able to do? They are going to ask you that question, and your answer cannot be, those people who were there, what did they do? Because that's your answer now, that those people who were there did not do anything. What you should be able to tell them is that this is what I am bringing to the table. And another word in other words, what they're going to ask you is that, now that you say, look, all the things that people have done before you came or while you are away have come to naught. What is it that you are coming to do that will now make us begin to vote for you and all of that? So having said that, it comes to what structure, I had to put it mildly, is that being around. But the whole idea is that what structure are you going to put in place? Nigeria is such a large place. And that is my advice to even the third party people. I don't hold anything against their entry into politics. As a matter of fact, I encourage it and I love if they are going to succeed. But the point is this, there is something that is called structure in politics. If you don't have it, you can never win election. I don't need to be clairvoyant about it. I do know. It's such that there must be somebody who is in Bayelsa, one fisherman somewhere in Bayelsa that will be running around for you, mobilizing people door to door to make sure that they vote for you. There must be somebody who is in Sokoto who is running around. He may not have met you, but he's running around because of the party he belongs to and all of that. There must be another Musa somewhere in Adamawa that has not met you. That is what is called the structure. I hate to use this example. One of the political people who call themselves, local politicians, during the 2019 election, I went home and I was telling him about OBS question. I have tremendous respect for the woman. If it was a case of nomination, I'll nominate her for presidency. But did you know what the chieftain told me? He said, yes, he knows her. She's one of those people who act in Nollywood. In other words, she has not heard about a person who says she wants to rule Nigeria, who has spoken good English, has a very good roadmap, has good economic map for Nigeria and all of that. The people who are supposed to do the voting do not know who she is. So that is why I'm saying that let us not be, television politicians, in which case we can say very beautiful things like, I refer to my words of appeal, on television. The election is won and lost in the words with the structure. If you don't have a structure, your ambition will be very beautiful, but it will come to naught.
Well, Felix, I know how George has I recall my last conversation with you, Felix. You also noted the issue of structure because you went around some, states in Nigeria, and you say, going forward from lessons learned in 2019, you already started building structures. Now, how does how do you plan to unseat a party like the APC or the size of the PDP, structure and influence in Nigeria today?
Yeah, like we discussed yesterday, and I understand structure. And mind you, APC didn't get to where they are today just the very first year they started. PDP has been you can call it the oldest party thus far. So it has taken these two parties to grow to get to where they are. The party, my party, which I ran under 2019, was just a few months old. So people expect so much from a young party that just got registered. And like I said, INEC currently has deregistered some political parties. And for us, we are consulting. There are so much we are doing, which of course we cannot reveal now until we decide on what we want to do. So I do understand structure, and I know because I experienced it in 2019. It is impossible to win an election with just some of these younger parties because they do not have the structure to be able to skate through. And that's why we are consulting now. That's why yesterday when the questions came, which party are you? I said, we're still consulting. We're going to make a smart choice and a smart decision, wise decision as we move forward. So I'm not underestimating the party. I'm not saying these younger parties will be able to do it. But when we decide, Nigerians are going to be shocked with what we're going to be doing.
We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll talk more about your ambition, Felix, and of course, tell us when you likely will let Nigerians know on what platform you'll be running. And of course, George will help us talk more about the electoral umpire. You've raised a big point there without, having to, bringing about some sanity in INEC. There's no way you have a fantastic election come 2023. That's when we return. Join us again. All of you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching VSA here on News Central Television, broadcasting live to 54 African countries. Now, the zoning formula and the origin of the next president have become pertinent issues in Nigeria's leading parties, with different perspectives being shared. Other than zoning, the issue of the age of Nigeria's next president, as highlighted before we went on break, is also keenly discussed, with young aspirants like Nicolas Felix, Chukwuka Monye, and Khadija Lamidi Okunu also joining the fray. While the names are many and the interests keep growing, policy documents and plans for governance have been absent, as well as structure, which George A.K. earlier discussed. So issues-based discourse have rapidly, come to the fore and somehow hardly been presented so far, as politicking remains the focus. Nigerians are also registering to vote with an interest that's higher than ever and a desire to see Nigeria thrive. Still with me here on the show, Nicolas Felix and George A.K. It's our home stretch now. George, let me bring you in here because quite a lot happening. It's just more than a year to the 2023 elections, and INEC, that's the electoral umpire, which you raised earlier on, doesn't seem ready yet. What will the postponement mean to Nigeria and the process of leadership recruitment process?
Well, I do not know the postponement you are talking about, because the timetable is still intact. And I do know that even INEC, in their recent outing, said that even if this electoral bill is not signed into law, that they will make do with what we already have, and that there are quite a lot of, they have a lot of ambits, to work with. I do know that it is important that this bill be signed into law, so that at least it can give INEC the impetus to do quite a number of things, i.e., like the modes of primaries that we have been talking about, the direct primaries, indirect, and then the consensus and all of that. And the way they have been carved are things that are in line with modernity, at least, having updated the 2010, Electoral Act. But you see, INEC needs to be staffed, or at least they need to infuse a number of credible people into the hierarchy of INEC. Why am I saying so? I started politics when we used to write results. I mean, I can make that confession on television. Everybody knew. I mean, that is part of why half of, the electoral matters ended up in court and all of that. But you see, since Jega came into INEC and then taken over by Yakubu now, no matter what we do, in the different parties, what we call orography. Orography is how to see if you can play around with INEC guidelines and regulations and all of that. When you finish doing that, you are seeing INEC over your shoulder. You know that you cannot go too far, because one, you can't write the results. There are quite a number of things that have been put in place that it's actually the person who is voted for that will be announced by INEC the way it is. So we need to encourage INEC by way of, putting in quite a number of people that we know are, like, we have their pedigree, they have integrity. These are no-nonsense people. These are not people that you can buy over and all of that. Quite a number of such people are now in INEC. Do not retire them. Don't make them lose confidence in what they are doing. Don't bring in people who you are not too sure of where they are coming from and all of that, and that will compromise INEC. And that is why it is important to strengthen INEC so that INEC can give us a good election. And once a good electoral framework, that is a legal framework, has been put in place, INEC, being an umpire, quite straightened, they can checkmate the politicians from wherever they are coming from. So INEC looks to me like a good auditor. A good auditor must think like a thief for you to be able to catch the criminal. INEC has gotten to know what the politicians do, all the gambits of the politicians and all of that, and they always try, since the past few years now, they have been trying to stop them on their tracks, and this is a thing to encourage.
Well, George, sometimes listening to you, not sometimes, all the time when I listen to you, I ask, is this a Nigerian politician speaking. Nicolas, help us here, because it looks like things are changing. Tell us the kind of hope you see when we listen to people like George Eke, because ideally, back in the day, a politician of his status will not be so objective about the electoral umpire. Felix, are there things you think Nigeria is yet to, gift INEC to properly ensure that the INEC becomes the all-seeing and untainted electoral umpire?
Yes. Yeah, Judge, you sound really like somebody who may have around in my administration. We're not coming to kick everybody out and jail everybody. So that's an open employment for you right there.
Judge doesn't know your party yet, so.
Sulaiman, without allowing Nicolas sound patronizing. Nicolas, look, I'm coming from where you are coming from. I left my employment in Atlanta, and I still live in Atlanta today. I decided to go and put my hands, in the mud. That is why I have. That is why I am part of the situation. Otherwise, I would have been out there talking about this thing not working, the other one not working. Nobody's doing anything that is good and good. I am there in the field. I'm in the trenches. So what I'm doing now is that some of the people that are coming after us, I'm trying to educate you with regard to what the field looks like, so that you can very much prepare for it, because there are people who are waiting for you now to take your money and tell you that you are the only candidate that is viable, that in short, your ideas are what Nigeria is looking for. They are waiting for you and waiting for your dollars. So it is important you know what to do, where you are landing, and what you're landing for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why you sound the way you sound. Yeah, when you have lived there a while, there's a way the system gets into you. I told somebody, I've been here for 18 years, and I've seen the way the system works. In 18 years living in New York City, only once has the power gone off, once. And when it went off, it was a big emergency. In less than 6 hours, the light came back up. So when we speak, we understand this thing is in us already, it's in our system. We just cannot help it just, to go that way. Now, let me get back to the question. Yeah. You see, one thing we must do is we have to allow INEC be independent. That's why they got the name. They are supposed to be independent electoral commission. So the first thing is, I find it very difficult. I find it a little bit funny when the president is the one that appoints the INEC chairman. There is no way you appoint in the Nigeria space, you appoint somebody to be the chairman, and yet they don't dance to your tune. So that's one area we must look into first. So how do we elect, or how do we appoint the INEC chairman and really make them independent? Because I feel there is a constraint on the INEC part. They are a little bit tied. It may not be too obvious to the general public, but they are a little bit tied in carrying out of their duties. So for us to have a free and fair election that will be void of ringing, or that ringing will be limited, INEC has to be independent. INEC has to be given the resources when they need it, so they will be able to carry out the election. Understand, electing the president or the governor, it is very crucial. When you elect a president, you are determining the fate of over 200 people. You are determining the fate of even the generation unborn. So this is not something that should be taken lightly. And in as much as we think INEC mismanaged, they overspend, when INEC bring budget, it needs to really be looked into, and they need to be empowered so they can do their job well, because this is very important. First, we must allow them to be independent.
Well, George, I'm trying to, get into 2023 already. Help us here. President Buhari will not be on the ballot in 2023. So it's going to be a whole different, ball. Do you think the APC will still be as influential as it was in 2019?
Yes, APC will be very influential, and the APC is most likely going to win the election, because you see, there is something about power of incumbency. Power of incumbency is not necessarily influencing the electoral body. It is your reach with regard to how many people are canvassing for votes for you, how many states are your commissioners, the governors you have, the ministers, where they come from, and all of those people who know that they have a stake in the party and all of that. There is no doubt that we are going to get a fight, from the PDP, no doubt, because quite a lot of bad publicity had come around, within this election and all of that. And PDP, who probably have been engineering the bad publicity, wants to see if they can make electoral capital out of it. We are not in any doubt about that. And one of the worst things anybody can do is to underestimate the power of your opponent and all of that. That is where our opponents stop. And in short, like I told you, we are not too sure of what this third force thing is going to be like. They came out about the last electoral cycle to 2015. Sorry, 2019. And the same format with which they came out, with CSOs, quite a number of the people in the academia, the labor union, students, and all of that, And it was like a storm in the teacup, it didn't make any meaning, so because they are not reaching out, they don't have capacity to reach out. So it's a straight fight between PDP and APC. And of course, you will find out that quite a number of other political parties who are going to field presidential candidates. But those are the people that you see their results. They get about 4 or 5 votes in a local government. At the end of the day, the totality of the votes they will get in the whole country may well be just about 1,300 and all of that, while we are talking about hundreds of thousands, for the two parties. So with regard to the chances of APC, they are bright. They are quite bright.
Felix, funding is big when it comes to election in Nigeria. Listening to George talking about, he gave the analogy or the example of a fisherman in the riverine area. You need one person, to be on ground, riverine areas and every nook and cranny of the country. How do you and your party plan to tackle this issue of funding?
Yeah, as we know, election costs money. Doesn't matter if it's Nigeria, if it's America or Canada. I think the difference between election in Nigeria and what we have here is Nigerians don't know how to contribute to election. They don't know what to give to candidates. Rather, they like to take, and that's where the problem begins from. Now, in 2019, if I may recap on what George is saying, we do know one of the challenges we have as young candidates is resources. It was a big deal with us, having the funds that is required to run this election. I think that's the only thing that is hindering us back. The Nigerians want to see a young candidate, but many times we are limited. We don't have the financial backup. We don't have the financial muscle to be able to run the election. But let me throw something in. Like I said, we are consulting, and some of the decisions we are going to make may not necessarily be just one of these smaller parties. So that's why I said when you hear of third force approach in 2023 is quite different from what it was in 2019. So you guys be prepared. You have to fasten your seatbelt because we're going to take you guys for a huge time. You guys are going to be amazed where we're coming.
Yeah, sure.
Now, being here, don't think we are just in New York and we are doing nothing. There's so much going on. I told you one of the reasons that kept me in the race in 2019, I had people working, young students spending their money for an election. That's one of the reasons I stayed in the race. I was going to quit within a few months when this issue of money was coming up. But people were doing things, paying for billboard, designing things and running around. And I felt pulling out is going to disappoint these guys who are running around. So just to say, we have people on ground in every state. Some are doing very well, some states may be little, but there are people on ground who are working very hard. Finance is an issue. We hope that 2023, God helping us, will be able to make a difference. Now, let me quickly just throw this in one of the points you made, George. Understand this. The fact that somebody is just coming afresh does not mean does not have a solution. As a pastor, one of the things I've tried to do is keep religion totally out of politics. So nobody thinks I'm coming to be the pastor of Nigeria. Now, but I must throw this in. You see, those of us who are Christians, even Muslims, you know the story of David. When David was coming out to confront this giant, this Goliath, who has been terrorizing the nation of Israel for 40 days, which you can say equivalent to Nigeria being in slavery for 40 years in the hands of this cabal. And nobody wanted to give him a chance. Even his own brother said, look at you, busybody. What can you do? You have no experience. You have not been trained in the army. You are a shepherd boy. What weapon do you have? As a matter of fact, when Saul gave him his weapon, he could not even use it. Took a sling. And it was him that God used to bring deliverance to the people of Israel. So I don't want us to say, oh, you don't have no experience. The solution is not in your hands. Judge, I'm quite sure you will be glad to see a president elected and cause a change in Nigeria. It could be somebody you're not expecting. So I'm quite sure that's what Nigerians are looking for. So we are not giving up. We're not turning our back. But the choice we're going to make is going to surprise even APC and PDP.
Let me ask George this, because we've been having this conversation, for a long time, and I'm happy that we're still very much around talking, George. How impressed or otherwise are you with the quality of aspirants so far? Are they the best Nigerians can get?
Well, there's something they taught me in politics. Initially, I used to be this utopian politician, with regard to what's your qualification and all of that. I was going to appoint somebody who was supposed to be a delegate. And somebody told me, say, look, leader, let us appoint the other person. He is going to be loyal. That in politics, we talk about loyalty more than qualification. I'm trying to tell you that you can move away from all the meritocracy that we talk about on television and on the soapbox. And I said, why? How did he say? We will make him have merit by the time we appoint him. So in other words, if you take a typical aspirant, that is why I can even give a chance to my friend Nicolas in the sense that he can come into the place and we'll make him a candidate and work on him so much so that he can't even believe himself and present him. It depends on how he's presented. The reason is that the Constitution just requires only 3 things for you to qualify to run as president. 1, you must be above 40. No, you must be a Nigerian by birth. By your age must be above 40. And then you must be a member of a political party, and that political party will sponsor you. That is all you require. By way of educational qualification, school certificate, in short, attempted. And by the time we interpret it in law, the school certificate comes to primary school certificate. That is what the interpretation of it has shown according to the case law that we have. Good. So in other words, all these people are all qualified. In the Southeast, for instance, you have found out that there is Mao Huabunwa, who just retired as some in the pharmaceutical industry, used to be the managing director of NIMET or something. Good. Look at somebody like Peter B, who is so acceptable all over the country with regard to his pedigree, with regard to his qualification. He has studied in all the business schools in the world. There is nowhere you can fault him with regard to prudence, frugality, and all of that. So he's a very solid candidate. Then look at somebody like Dave Umahi. He's a sitting governor. He can point to what he has done and all of that. Come to APC. Look at, I started by telling you how much a juggernaut Tinubu is. There may be quite a number of other people who are coming up in APC that are going to, challenge him. Even if he gets challenged by maybe Oshibajo, that is who they say is his boy, as it were. But Oshibajo qualifies anywhere in the world to be a president. You get the point? So what we're talking about, that the quality of persons that are coming are good enough. But when you now go to the third force, then you now see a concentration of technocrats, very big heads and all of. When I say big heads, I mean big brains and all of that. So all of those people are all on the table. But it now depends on what are you bringing to the table? Under what platform are you coming? Are you electable? Do you have the capacity to get the votes? That is what will make you a president.
Well, as we close, let's take our closing statement for both of you. And to you, Nicolas Felix, quickly, Nigerians would like to know how soon you will make your declaration so that they get to know on what platform you're running. As highlighted, we don't have too much of time, to the next election.
Yes, I'll be in Nigeria actually a few weeks from now, and we have so much we're doing. And as soon as the visit, we're going to be declaring. So the work is on. We're not quiet daily. There are so much meetings going on, just like this Zoom meetings, and we're still deciding. Like I said, 2019, we learned a lot. It is very important, and it will be wise of us to make the right choice, to make a smart decision as we go into 2023. We're not here to play. I won't leave my comfort zone here just because I want to test the water. We're not testing the water here. So a few weeks from now, we'll be making that known to Nigerians.
And quickly here, before I let you go, George, help us here. How is the APC approaching the February 26th convention? And are you confident the interest of everyone will be represented?
Yeah, sure. You see, politics is all about contest. And at all points in time, the interests, you have interests that are contending, conflicting at times. We have tried to resolve quite a lot of that. If you notice, the last Thursday, we inaugurated the state A schools of 34 of the states. 2 of them were yet to sort out, but that's a significant number out of, 36 states and all of that. So those are the people who will form the bulk of the voters, delegates, and all of that. And the statutory delegates and the constitutional delegates are all, available. Elected delegates are all available. We have written to INEC already, to come and observe the convention. And those are things we require. And I'm not too sure that there is anything to shift about it, so we're up and running.
Well, it is hoped that after that convention, we'll have you here to talk more about the outcome of the convention. George, thanks for your time, George.
The pleasure will be mine, yes.
Yes, it's been a rich discourse here on Nigeria's 2023 elections here on VSA. And thanks for being such a nice company, George AK and Nicolas Felix. I'm Sulaiman. I'll be back again.